Yeah.
Hi, it's your girl Curly Jamaican here with yet another video for you. And today I'm using Zoom because I wanted to do a reaction video to two videos. One of the female officer crying because of an issue with her McDonald's order, and the other of an officer talking about their duties and what is expected of them. An officer from the organization breaking barriers, and they are trying to change the face and the negativity and the stigma that surrounds police officers. And I just wanted us, to listen to that officer because he had a lot to say, and honestly, it was just all beautiful to me. Now the video with the officer, the female officer crying, I initially saw it today on Instagram. Um, I actually follow known Republicans and known Democrats alike, just because I like to keep, to get to see both sides of the story, and I like to be balanced and I like to be in the know. So, I saw the video posted by a Republican, David Harris Jr., and he was appalled, he was outraged by the the video, and pretty much, he was saying we should stop what we're doing. And as usual, the comments were, these officers are just doing their jobs, and very sympathetic, very empathetic to the officer. And I just had to take a step back. I just watched a small portion of the video. The comments were what intrigued me, and I had to think, this is one officer that seems to be impacted by the stress of what's going on. One officer. um, and you guys can completely understand and empathize, but will say that, and will be outraged and say that this needs to stop. How society is currently treating officers need to stop, but you won't be outraged by the hundreds of people that die from police brutality, and you have the stats to prove it. Instead, you will say that this is not an issue. And I'm not really sure if you think it's just a casualty of the job or whatever it is, but in your opinion, it is sadder, or more heartbreaking to see a cop crying over her coffee than it is to see someone dying from police brutality. And that is why I just cannot deal with Republicans. You guys really are beyond delusional. So anyway, here we go. We're going to watch the video together. Um, let's go. I think there's someone hiding behind somewhere in my trees. Anyway, first, let's watch the officer.
I don't know how much more I can take. I've been in this for 15 years and I've never, ever. I decided to come to the McDonald's at Love's on the Ford Avenue exit, and I waited in line to get my food. I had already done my mobile order so that, people don't pay for my stuff, because I just always like to pay for it myself. But I'm on my way home. I don't know how much more I can take. I've been in this for 15 years and I've never, ever. I decided to come to the McDonald's at Love's on the Ford Avenue exit, and I waited in line to get my food. I had already done my mobile order so that, people don't pay for my stuff, because I just always like to pay for it myself. But I'm on my way home from work.
Can someone tell me what that means? She said that she already paid. She did a mobile order so she can pay for her own thing. So that is she saying saying that she doesn't have to utilize the cashiers? Is that what she is saying? Because I don't understand the purpose of saying that. If someone can just clarify that. So I'm thinking she's saying that, she just paid for it online so that she doesn't have to inconvenience the cashier, which it won't be an inconvenience because that is the cashier's job. But let me just say this. A lot of the times when you make a mobile order or you order your food before you get to the place, there sometimes there's some confusion where that is concerned. Sometimes there is. It has happened to me before. It has happened to me numerous times. When you're ordering pizza online and then you go to pick it up and they're asking for your name and they're trying to figure out where's your order. Sometimes they just, fast food places, they have the capabilities of taking your order beforehand, but it causes some confusion once you get there. So, that is kind of a key point to actually make note of. That honestly, that's probably why she ended up waiting. But let's continue.
When I pull up to the window, they hand me my receipt, so I go to the second window to get my food, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting. And so the girl comes to the window and asks me what my order was. I repeat my order and my coffee order, and they ask me to pull up because my food's not ready. It's an English muffin meal with a hash brown and coffee. And I mean, I hadn't eaten since probably about, I've been up for a very long time, but I haven't eaten in a while, so I was kind of hungry. And I'm still waiting, and I'm still waiting. And they asked me to pull up. And so I pull up forward, and a girl comes out with my coffee, and just the coffee. And she hands it to me, and I have my window down. And that's all she hands me is the coffee. So I told her, I said, don't bother with the food because right now I'm too nervous to take it. It doesn't matter how many hours I've been up. It doesn't matter.
Really? Really? Okay, first of all, how many of us have been asked to pull up and wait for our meal? How many of us? Show of hands, how many of us have been asked to pull up as we wait for the meal? How many people have had to do that more than one time? So, how many times have they brought the drink out first and then brought the food out afterwards? Or they've given you the drink and at the window and then asked you to pull up. Either way, they've given you the drink first, right? So, honestly, I'm not really sure that this has anything to do with her being a police officer. I'm not really sure. There are so many things happening right now, the mobile order, and then the fact that it is not uncommon for customers to be asked to pull up and to wait for their meal. That is not uncommon at all. They have to fry the hash browns. She said she ordered a hash brown. I'm thinking, was it just the coffee and the muffin? No, she ordered an entire meal. They probably had to fry the hash browns and just prepare her meal. So she says that she's waiting. All right. The next thing is, you know what? I think that she's really, really hungry, and that is what's causing her to be a little bit more emotional about this issue. Have you ever been that hungry? Have you ever been that hungry to where it's like everything is just a problem? Everything, just waiting is a problem. People talking to you is a problem. Your hair is a problem. Everything is a problem. Have you ever been that hungry? And it looks like she's been on her shift for a couple hours, and she's hungry. So I think this is kind of impacting her perspective a little bit. I'm not going to lie, because what she is describing is so common. I cannot say that this is specifically because she is an officer. But let's continue.
What I've done for anyone. Right now, I'm too nervous to take a meal from McDonald's because I can't see it being made. I don't know what's going on with people nowadays, but please, just give us a break. Please, just give us a break. I don't know how much more I can take. I've been in this for 15 years, and I've never, ever had such anxiety about waiting for McDonald's drive-thru food. So just have a heart, and if you see an officer, just tell them thank you, because I don't hear thank you enough anymore. I decided to come to the McDonald's at Love's. More people get upset.
Oh my goodness, honey, I feel sorry because you were really hungry and you had to wait for your food. As a customer, I'm sorry that you had to wait for your food. That is the only thing I feel sorry for. Otherwise, from that girl, why are you crying? Okay, now let's just be honest, for a second. Let's not be disingenuous. Right now, it's a little bit tough to be a cop. There's a lot of animosity targeted at cops right now. And, a lot of them might be on edge, nervous because of the climate, and I completely get that. But honestly, people have been actually hating the cops for a very long time. So this is nothing new. It's just they are kind of the focus right now. Um, so I see that, and I think that she is stressed out because of the climate and her thinking that people hate the cops, and that, she's worried that because people hate the cops, they might do something with her food, or they might not give her the quality service that she believes she's entitled to. But let's say that, that is the truth, that they were messing with her food, and, all of this it was giving her anxiety. As an adult, why would you not call the McDonald's right there? You have the receipt, the number is on the top of the receipt, and ask to speak to a manager. Why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you call the manager and say, hey, I've been sitting out here for a while. I've been waiting for my food. They came and gave me my coffee, but I didn't get the rest of my food, and I've been out here for a while now. Guaranteed that would have fixed the problem. That would have fixed the problem. And that's kind of how the rest of us normally handle the situation. The rest of the normal world, we handle the situation by speaking with the manager. And I'm guessing because a lot of fast food places, they're closed on the inside, they're not open for dining because of the COVID. So I'm guessing, she couldn't go inside to watch her food being made, and she couldn't go inside to speak to the manager, which is fine. That is okay. Call them. Instead of having a complete meltdown, call them. Call them. Then on top of that, you also had the option to ask for a refund, get your money back, and go elsewhere. I mean, there were so many things that you could do that would have solved your problem. So many things, right? So I'm not her tears, all of this, all the crying, all the drama surrounding this. Man, I think you need to probably take a break, take a couple of days off, and just regroup, bring it back, because you can't be this emotional on the job. Um, you know, you can't be this stress, and it's obvious that you're stressed out. It's obvious that, everything that's going on, it's impacting you in a very negative way. You have anxieties over getting your coffee. Imagine what else you have anxieties over. Interacting with an African American might bring more anxiety to you. You know what I'm saying? If getting your coffee is giving you this much anxiety, imagine interacting with the public. And then this is what we're talking about. Like the bigger picture here is you have anxieties and you're dealing with the public. You're anxious and you're dealing with the public. So, when you wonder about cops being trigger happy, not saying that she's trigger happy. She honestly seems like a really nice person. She seems like she doesn't seem like a bad person. The people are calling her Karen the cop. Yeah, she kind of deserve it. she sort of deserves it because, just speak to a manager, handle the situation of crying. Request a refund, go about your business. But she doesn't seem like a bad person. But she seems a little bit on edge. And she could have been on edge because she was hungry and also because of the climate. And as a result, I hope that she's able to ask for some time off and regroup, because we don't want you working like that. We don't want you working like that. Okay? And these are some of the things that we have to look into when we're, addressing police reform. We don't want our officers working in that mental state where they're crying because they have to wait at a McDonald's for their meal. And they can't think of other solutions to solve the problem except for breaking down. That is definitely a problem. Okay, so that being said, let's go and look at this other video, which shows cops in a more stable light, in a more positive light, and what we want from our officers, the ideals that we hope that they uphold. And a lot of them, they do. I can think of one officer off the top of my head. I think his name is Tommy. Yes. I can't remember his last name, but he's very well known for his method of community policing. And honestly, they probably need to, when people, or departments and governments and city governments especially are considering the community policing, they might want to consult this officer, because he's been trying to show the world how community policing can really help to heal a community, and how it can make it safe for the community members as well as the officers. And I've followed him for a very long time, and I've seen it, and like his videos just bring joy to my life. But that being said, let us go and watch the video from the organization Breaking Barriers.
Sir, my fundamental duty is to serve mankind, to safeguard lives. As a law enforcement officer, my fundamental duty is to serve mankind, to safeguard lives and property, to protect the innocent against deception, the weak against oppression or intimidation, and the peaceful against violence or disorder, and to respect the constitutional rights of all men to liberty, equality, and justice. I will keep my private life unsullied as an example to all, maintain courageous calm in the face of danger, scorn, or ridicule, develop self-restraint, and be constantly mindful of the welfare of others. Honest in thought and deed in both my personal and official life, I will be exemplary in obeying the laws of the land and the regulations of my department. Whatever I see or hear of a confidential nature or that is confided to me in my official capacity will be kept ever secret unless revelation is necessary in the performance of my duty.
He said, I will maintain courageous calm. When you're when these cops are anxious or for whatever reasons, they can't maintain courageous calm, we, the people, we feel it. We feel it. And we feel it, when people become victims of police brutality, people end up dying because they're killed by officers, things like that. But, and we hear all the time that, oh my goodness, these officers, they work hard, and it can be easy to be interacting with the dangerous part of society, and you took this job and you took this oath. You took this job and you took this oath. And this oath holds you to protecting life, holds you to protecting rights, holds you to being calm in the face of danger. Now, that is hard. It is hard to be calm in the face of danger. But if you are taking on this job and you're taking on this oath, then it is your duty to abide by this oath. Okay.
I will never act officiously or permit personal feelings, prejudices, animosities, or friendships to influence my decisions. With no compromise for crime and with a relentless prosecution of criminals, I will enforce the law courteously and appropriately without fear or favor, malice or ill will, never employing unnecessary force or violence, and never accepting gratuities. I recognize the badge in my office as a symbol of public faith, and I accept it as a public trust to be held so long as I am true to the ethics of police service. I will constantly strive to achieve these objectives and ideals, dedicating myself before God and to my chosen profession, law enforcement. Hey, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Tillman. And today, on a little bit of a more somber note, I want to talk to you guys about the incident that occurred yesterday in Minneapolis involving George Floyd. What I just read to you guys was the law enforcement code of ethics. And what you don't realize is that most police officers across the country, when they graduate the police academy, we recite that code of ethics. It's ingrained in us, we memorize it, and we also make sure we take it to heart because we have to know what we accept to do as this job. And the reason I read that law enforcement code of ethics to you right now is because I want you guys to know what I signed up for. The reason why I do what I do. The reason why I became a police officer is to protect people, is to help people, is to save people in their most dire need. What I did not sign up to do is I did not sign up to act immorally or unethically or take somebody's life who didn't deserve to die. And what we witnessed yesterday in Minneapolis was a situation in which an officer didn't care about human life. As hard as this video was to watch, what was most depressing about the video was it felt like the officer didn't have a care in the world for the subject that was on the ground. I want you guys to realize that in my job, in our job as officers, we do have an obligation to go out and protect people. We have an obligation to solve crime. And many times in our profession, people will use resistance and force against us. But I will also tell you is that when they are no longer a threat, if they are not resisting, I do not have the power. I cannot go ahead and remove your rights from you as a human being and take your life because I don't care about you. I have a personal obligation.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. You don't have the right to take a person's life, to deny is right to due process because you think they're a criminal, because you think that they're a suspect, because they are a 3-time felon. None of that. None of that gives you the right to take that person's life. None of that. And that is why I can't stand it when Republicans say things like, if they weren't resisting, this wouldn't happen to them, or if they weren't committing a crime, this won't happen to them. And as Amazing Lucas calls them, the OTLs. What are you talking about? Now, the situation with Rayshard, he was resisting arrest. And this is the thing. When you become an officer, do you not expect to deal with people like that? Do you expect to only deal with people that are not resisting arrest? Because if you're expecting to deal with people that are not resisting arrest, then you're going to end up with a rude awakening, a very rude awakening. Because you're going to be called every time someone is either in distress, in danger, or something crazy is going down. That's when you're going to be called. And you have to be prepared to apprehend somebody safely, even when they're resisting arrest, even when they're aggravating you, even when they are what you might think a criminal or the worst of society, the dregs of society. You have to be prepared to protect their rights, even if you're apprehending them for committing an offense. And so I just don't understand where the disconnect is when a lot of people are thinking, oh, if you weren't committing a crime, then this wouldn't happen to you. Some people's reality isn't fairy tales and um, picket fences and great parents. Some people's reality are cocaine, rape, drugs, um, murder. That's their reality. Kids being exposed to things like this from an early age, molestation, things like this. That's their reality. And they grow up and they become criminals of society. Not saying that all of them do. I'm just saying when people sit there and say, oh, if you followed the law and if you didn't break the law, this would have happened to you. There are people in this world that they just experience the worst in life, and they become criminals in society, and their criminal careers, career criminals, things like that. But that doesn't mean that because they committed a crime that they deserve to be treated as if they are nobody and they deserve for their rights to be taken away and they deserve to be killed. None of that is correct or makes sense. And this is why we need police reform. And I don't care if you think a few hundreds of people dying from police brutality isn't a lot. And I don't care if you're talking about, police officers dying because of their job, you know, and it's a dangerous job. I don't care for none of that, because if this was truly a concern for you, then you would want police reform. People out there talking about number of officers dying a year, because police reform will make it safer for officers and will make it safer for people that interact with officers. So if you're not for the change and if you're not for the reform, then expect to see all this crap continue to happen, and and expect to see more officers dying, and also expect to see more continued police brutality, and also expect to continue saying that it's not a problem. Speaking to the hard-headed Republicans.
to preserve life, preservation of life. It's an obligation. I've handled situations like these before. I was actually at a situation like this last week, actually, where we had a guy on his stomach who said he couldn't breathe, and we had to hobble his feet, put a rope around his feet because he kept kicking our police car. He had steel-toe boots on, and he was really a threat to a lot of people. So we put him on his stomach, we handcuffed him, and he told us he couldn't breathe. But the first thing we did is we rolled him on his side, made sure that he couldn't breathe. And so one thing that we have to do, or make sure that he could breathe, I'm sorry. But one thing that we have to do as officers is we have to get rid of excuses, because I know that's coming. I've already got some, actually. The excuse of, well, what if he was resisting beforehand? Well, even if let's just say he was resisting, does it allow those officers to continue to utilize force against him when he stops resisting? The sad part about this video is that after several minutes of his body, of George Floyd's body going limp, the officer still didn't even look down at him to see if he was okay. And so the moment a person stops resisting, we need to make sure that we preserve their life if they are going through a medical emergency. Excuse number 2. Well, maybe he was using drugs and maybe he went to a cardiac arrest because of the drugs. Just because a person uses drugs does not allow me to say, oh, well, you don't get any medical help because you use those drugs. If a person is going through a cardiac arrest or emergency, whatever it is, a medical emergency, I have every obligation to save his life just as much as the next person. So we can throw that excuse out the window. The other excuse is this. Hey, well, he was spitting on us and, you know, we wanted to wait there for EMS. There's ways that you can get that situation, make that situation better. Roll him on his side, sit him up, let him breathe, put him in the back of a police car, throw a spit sock on him. The reason I can tell you about these different ways or different methods that they could have chose is because I've been in situations as such many times. I've dealt with people that said, you know, that are going through a series of which we call excited delirium, which is they can't breathe, their body starts heating up internally. I've gone through those situations, and the moment somebody tells me that they can't breathe or they're hurting, is my obligation to make sure I check on the welfare of that individual, because I don't want to be the officer that sits there and stands by as this person takes his last breath. The video was very, very hard to watch, and I am upset. And the reason I'm upset is not just because that officer allowed that person to die yesterday, Mr. George Floyd. It's because all the work that officers across the world are doing to repair the bond between law enforcement and the community is tainted and is tarnished because of acts like that. We have to be able to stand up and call a spade for what it is. You guys know me. I'm always telling you guys, hey, I do research. I'm going to do as much research as I can. And I do that, and I say that because I know I can be put in a controversial position tomorrow or today when I go to work. But there's also a time and place where we know what's wrong is wrong. And the only way we're going to make this profession better, the only way we're going to garnish the trust amongst our community is being honest and being able to hold each other accountable. This was an emotional situation, and I feel bad for not only George Floyd's family, but the officers involved. I feel bad for their families. I feel bad for the departments. I feel bad for the communities. I feel bad for everybody as a society because we're becoming more and more divided. But there is hope, and here's the hope. George Floyd, everybody else that has lost their life unjustly, I promise you that I'm going to continue to do what I can do to be the best officer I can be, stand up for what's right, call out what's wrong, and I'm going to try to bring as much people with me as I can. I will continue to do the Tillman 6 as educational purposes. I didn't show the whole video on this one simply for the fact of if that was my family member, I wouldn't necessarily want this continue to be reposted. If you're an officer out there, I want to leave you one last thing. Picture yourself watching that video and imagine George Floyd being one of your family members. Would it be easy to stomach? Every second you watch that video, every second that elapses, you know that that might be a possible chance for
So guys, I'm not going to watch the entire video, but you get the gist of what he's saying. And let me tell you, we definitely need cops like him that are not making excuses and to explain to people who are making excuses for the cop that there is a way to safely apprehend people, even if they are drug dealers and drug users and they were resisting arrest. We have to show people that it's possible, and we have to humanize criminals in such a way where you understand that they have rights too. Now, when I say humanize them, I mean in that moment that they're being arrested, we have to protect and respect their rights in that moment. Whatever crime they committed, they will go through the due process and they will face whatever justice that they need to face. But we need to be honest and we need to stop making excuses. Anyway, guys, that is the end of my video, my reaction video. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up, like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. I'm really more interested in your comments because I do respond to comments. But thank you guys so much for watching. Have a wonderful day. Bye.